All right, guys, welcome back to another weekly episode. This will be number 2 tonight of Weekly Defects. So tonight we're going to cover just one topic. I'm going to go through it in some pretty good detail just so you'll get an idea of why we call this out on a regular basis. So I hope you enjoy. All right, so before we break the video down, let me just walk you through and explain to you a little bit about what you're about to see. So oftentimes when you're in the home, you walk into the attic space if there's a walk-in, or you go through the access if it's in the ceiling. You get in there and you're walking through the attic, you're traversing the attic as we like to call it. You got your flashlight, you got everything on you, and you see these ducts that are either coming from the kitchen or the bathroom. And the issue is that they're usually venting up into the attic instead of being routed to the exterior. This is a critical issue, and I see this so much I really can't even put it into words. This is probably one of the most frequently seen things in attics, and there's actually been some objections and some people have raised questions about it as if that's even necessary, that they do vent to the outside. And this is actually a code issue, so we're going to address that as well. So before we get started, just go ahead and check out the video. All right, here's another fun one that we see often. This is pretty common, but shouldn't be. This is one of the ways where you can unknowingly cause damage in the attic that you have to later go back and repair, and that you had no idea that this would even be an issue. This is one of the reasons a home inspection comes in handy, because otherwise you wouldn't be up here crawling this attic to figure things out like this. In this particular case, you see a vent. So where's this vent coming from? Well, I've already walked the house, so I kind of have an unfair advantage, but it's coming up from above the range in the microwave. So this is your light and your vent that's contained above the range. So when you cut the vent fan on in the kitchen, it pulls the moist air that you're using as you're cooking. That moist air that arises as you're boiling water, things like that, comes up through that vent, and then it exits into the attic. Now that's not a problem. It's supposed to go through the attic, but it's supposed to go all the way through to the exterior. So this right here should continue and go all the way up and out. They have they've done some remodeling lately, and so the kitchen is newer. It's not original, and so I'm sure that this has been added at that point in time. So we don't have any accumulation of mold, nothing that would point to mold, nothing significant as of now. But going forward, especially as this continues over years and years and years, especially if they do a lot of cooking and they're in the kitchen constantly running that fan, where does that warm, moist air go? It has to go somewhere. It can't get out. So the problem is, a lot of the times it just simply condenses on these boards, and that can over time lead to mold growth. This is one of those small, very small preventative maintenance things that can really make a big impact in the future and save you a lot of money. All right, so the ironic thing about that video is that took place just recently, but on the inspections that I did today, 2 inspections, I ran into this exact same issue. It was happening in Birmingham, and then it also happened in Jasper. So really everywhere you go, you're still seeing the same problems. I think it's important for people to understand that when you're taking a shower or you're cooking, there is water that's being released into the air, okay? And so that's the most important thing for people to understand. So in other words, as this water is being released, it creates a moisture in the air higher than what is present in the air prior. The problem is that this moisture is going to condense on whatever is colder. So if there's a wall nearby, a ceiling, a floor surface that's colder than the warm air that is being produced by either cooking or a shower, it's going to condense. And so over time, that's going to lead to mold or things like that happening on the wall, on the interior of the home. So that's the reason that these builders put in these exhaust ducts, to get that warm, moist air outside. Now the problem here is that when you have these ducts being routed into the attic space, you're not doing yourself any justice, because all you're doing is essentially moving air from A to B. You're not doing anything to get it out. You're simply taking it from the inside into the attic space. So that mold that would occur is just going to occur in the attic, and even worse, because you're not going to be able to see it. You're not even going to be able to tell that it's there. So when you have this warm, moist air being transferred into the attic, same thing is going to happen, especially during wintertime. It's going to be cold in your attic because that's a non-conditioned space, and this warm, moist air is going to condense on those boards, and that will lead to mold growth. So the image that I'm showing you right now, this took place at an inspection yesterday, and you can see the water stain present up near the top of that exhaust vent. So that duct opens up into the attic, and you can see the water stains. Where's that coming from? Well, it's coming from the moist air that's being pulled up into the attic. So I really can't stress this enough. This has to go to the outside. Some people will, in an effort to kind of put a band-aid on a wound, they'll just take that duct and they'll route it over to the soffit, and they'll just kind of dump it there. Now, as to those who are wondering what the code says about this, the code is clear and specific, as it says here. This must be routed to the outside. It cannot go to a soffit. It cannot go anywhere near the eaves, through the ridge vent. A duct, any type of a mechanical vent system, must not be opened up into the attic, the crawl space, any of these areas like that. And as you can see here and here, this is what happens over time if this is not addressed and not corrected. Now, how often does this happen? Well, it really depends, because if you're somebody who takes lots of showers, you have kids and they're taking showers constantly, or you're always in the kitchen cooking, you're going to be running that vent a lot more. If you're someone who's never home, then you're probably not going to experience the same severity of this issue because that duct is not running all the time. So a lot of that will simply depend on whether or not you're using it. I think at the end of the day, we would rather err on the side of caution and make sure that this is vented out so that this cannot even be a factor or an issue that we have to worry about. And in terms of the cost to do so, it's a relatively inexpensive repair to just take a duct, if there's not one installed, install one and route it to the outside. Or if there is one already being routed into the attic, that we add the proper vent and we take it up through the attic, through the roof like we're supposed to. And I think that's how we solve that problem. Listen, guys, if you have any more questions about this, please don't hesitate to reach out. My number is below in the comments. It's somewhere near here. Get in touch with me. We can talk about this. If you need an inspection, don't hesitate. I'm here. If you guys have any more questions, give me a shout. Thanks.